What if I told you that Ferrari is already one step ahead of everyone, without anyone realizing it yet? Subscribe to continue uploading more of this type of content now, if we continue. Because while the rest of the teams believe they have seen the true performance of the SF26, the reality is much more disturbing. A limited test, just a few laps in Fiorano, strange movements on the track, a stop that set off alarms, and still no real failure. Everything was calculated. Ferrari didn't go to shoot, it went to hide. And the most worrying thing for their rivals is not what they showed, but everything they decided not to show. Ferrari arrived at Fiorano with more than just a new car. It arrived with a clear intention to completely change the rules of the game from the first moment, but without showing all its cards. January 23rd, 2026 was not a simple presentation. It was a silent declaration of intentions that many did not understand at that moment. While the tifosi filled the surroundings of the circuit waiting to see action, what happened on the track was apparently disappointing. Barely 15 kilometers of filming, 2 laps per driver, and an extremely limited program that contrasted with what would normally be expected from such an important debut. But precisely there is the key to everything, because Ferrari was not looking to impress, it was executing a plan. Lewis Hamilton was the first to take to the track, marking the beginning of a new era within the team, followed by Charles Leclerc on a day where every second was measured to the millimeter. There were no long runs, no visible simulations, no clear performance benchmarks, just very specific actions such as standing start tests and extremely specific data collection. In fact, after completing their laps, both drivers stopped on the main straight-to-practice starts, being then returned to the garage, something that went unnoticed by many but was part of a much deeper technical program. Ferrari wasn't testing speed, it was validating critical systems in real conditions. And this is where the true impact of this test begins to take shape, because what for the public was a short and unrevealing session, internally it was quite the opposite. In just 5 laps, the SF26 generated an amount of data that exceeds what previous single-seaters achieved in full weeks of testing. This not only speaks to the efficiency of the car, but to the technological leap in the way Ferrari is collecting, interpreting, and using information. It is no longer about riding more, but about understanding each kilometer better. And Ferrari seems to have mastered that concept perfectly. However, the moment that really stirred the paddock came when Hamilton stopped briefly on track. Social networks exploded, rumors began to circulate, and many interpreted this as a possible mechanical problem at the car's debut. It was the perfect opportunity to question the reliability of SF26. But everything fell apart in a matter of minutes. Ferrari clarified that there was no failure, that this stoppage was part of the verification program, and Leclerc later confirmed it, ensuring that everything had worked without problems. What seemed like a mistake was actually another piece of the plan. As the images were analyzed, much more revealing details began to appear, especially in the aerodynamic behavior of the car. Attentive observers detected movements in the ailerons that did not fit with a conventional design. The front wing descended in a straight line, while the rear wing generated an opening similar to an evolved DRS, optimizing airflow in a way that not only improves top speed, but also suggests dynamic control of aerodynamic balance. This is not a simple improvement. It is a change of concept that aims directly to solve one of Ferrari's biggest historical problems, rear instability. Because if this first contact in Fiorano made something clear, it is that the SF26 has nothing to do with his past. Ferrari has decided to completely break with the SF25, a car that conditioned the entire previous season due to its unbalanced aerodynamic approach. Now the objective is totally different, to build a more neutral, more predictable car capable of performing in a much wider range of conditions, especially in high degradation situations where they previously suffered. This change is not a natural evolution, it is a total reconstruction from the base. But most disturbing thing about all this is not what Ferrari showed, but the feeling that it showed absolutely none of its true potential. Every decision, from limiting kilometers to the type of tests performed, points to a clear strategy: collect key information while hiding their real performance. And this is what is beginning to worry within the paddock, because when a team is able to learn so much by showing so little, it means that it has absolute control of the situation. What Ferrari did at Fiorano starts to make even more sense when you understand that they weren't testing a car, they were executing a strategy designed to confuse the entire field. Because while the focus was on the little that they rolled, what was truly important was happening behind the scenes. Ferrari decided to divide its development into phases, and what we saw was just the first layer of a much more aggressive plan. The so-called initial version of the SF26, the one that rolled in Fiorano, is not the definitive car. It's a validation tool, a base designed solely to check that everything works before unleashing its true potential. And this is where the rest of the teams begin to be left completely in the dark. Because in modern Formula One, every detail counts. Rivals analyze images, compare heights, observe aerodynamic movements, try to decipher design philosophies, but Ferrari has eliminated that possibility from the beginning. By presenting a deliberately incomplete car, they are hiding the key solutions that will really make a difference on the track. It's like everyone is trying to solve a puzzle, but Ferrari has only given them some irrelevant pieces. This approach is no coincidence. It is a direct response to what happened in previous seasons. Ferrari knows that every technical advance that is shown too soon ends up being replicated or neutralized by its rivals in a matter of weeks. Therefore, instead of showing their cards from the beginning, they have chosen the opposite, hiding them until the exact moment when it is too late to react. And that completely changes the competitive dynamic because it forces teams like McLaren, Mercedes, or Red Bull to develop their cars without a clear reference of where Ferrari is aiming. And if we connect this with what we saw on the track, everything starts to fit together. The aerodynamic movements that could be observed are not isolated solutions. They are indications of a much more complex system that we have probably not yet seen in its entirety. Ferrari has not only worked on the balance of the car, but on how that balance can be dynamically adapted depending on the situation, something that could give them a brutal advantage in both qualifying and the race. But the most worrying thing for the rest is not only the technical innovation, is the control that Ferrari is demonstrating. Because executing such a plan requires absolute confidence in the car, in the data, and in the direction of development. You can't afford to hide performance if you're not sure you have it. And everything indicates that Ferrari is. While other teams need to show speed to understand where they are, Ferrari already seems to know it and has decided not to share it. And that creates a very dangerous situation on the grid, competing against something you can't measure. And now is where everything fits, and where Ferrari's move stops looking smart and starts looking dangerous for all of Formula One. Because if we put together the limited testing at Fiorano, the enormous amount of data collected in just a few laps, the total absence of real problems, the signs of much more advanced active aerodynamics, and above all, the conscious decision to hide the true performance, what we see before us is not simply a promising car. It is a project that could have taken the lead before the season even started. Ferrari has changed the natural order of the game. While the rest of the teams are still trying to understand their own car, dealing with configurations, data correlation, and initial problems, the Scuderia already seems to be in a much more advanced phase, that of optimizing, fine-tuning, and preparing evolutions on a base that already works. And that is a huge difference. Because in Formula One, whoever understands their car first, evolves first, and whoever evolves first, ends up dominating. But there is something even more critical, something that can mark the entire season, the surprise factor. Ferrari has managed to reach this point without showing its true speed, without showing its key cards, and without giving clear references to its rivals. That means that when they finally release the real package, when that evolved version they've been hiding since the beginning shows up, the impact can be immediate. And the worst thing for others is that they will not have time to react. This completely transforms the competitive landscape. We are no longer talking about a balanced fight from the first race, but about the possibility that Ferrari appears with an advantage built in silence, an advantage that is not born on the track, but in strategy. Because while other teams develop visibly, Ferrari did so in the shadows, gathering critical information without revealing its real direction. And this is where the big question that defines this entire moment comes in. What if the SF26 is already fast, even in this stealth version? Because if that's true, then what comes next isn't an improvement, it's a leap. What we saw in Fiorano was not a simple test, nor a first contact, nor even a traditional presentation. It was a demonstration of control. Control over the car, over the data, over the times, and most importantly, control over the narrative that right now surrounds the entire Formula One. Because while the rest are trying to decipher how fast the SF26 really is, Ferrari is already playing on another level. One where not the one who shows the most wins, but the one who hides the best. And that is precisely what makes this moment so different from other years. Ferrari doesn't need to impress in January. It doesn't need to make headlines with fast laps or spectacular simulations, because its real advantage seems to be in what we haven't seen yet. They have built a completely new car, corrected past structural errors, and instead of showing it off, they have decided to protect it. That's not prudence, it's trust. Confidence that SF26 works. confidence that the data is solid, and above all, confidence that when the time comes to show your true performance, it will be too late for others to react. Because here's the key to it all. Ferrari isn't just developing a car, it's setting the pace of the season before it starts, is forcing its rivals to make decisions without real information, to evolve in uncertain directions, to pursue a reference that does not yet exist on the track. And in sport where every thousandth counts, that uncertainty can be the difference between fighting for the title or falling behind without understanding why. Fiorano's test was short, silent, and apparently irrelevant, but we now know that it was quite the opposite. It was the first move in a much larger strategy, a move that combines technical innovation, tactical intelligence, and virtually perfect execution. Subscribe to continue uploading more of that content. Now you really think about all this.